My name's Taryn and I'm a professional baker from South Africa. I've baked some crazy, weird and wonderful cakes in my time, and now I hope to pass those skills on to you as I bake, make and create with the Supermoms Club. Welcome to episode 2. It is an overcast and miserable day in Bloemfontein today. Winter seems to be giving her last little kick, but still she offers us the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets. It's Africa and it's home. And that's why today we'll be baking another iconic South African bake, Malva pudding, or in Afrikaans, Malva pudding. Malva pudding has to be my undoing, that one dessert that I absolutely cannot refuse. And this recipe is perfect. So without waffling on any longer, let's get into the ingredients. You'll need 2 eggs, a half a cup of sugar, 25 ml of butter, 30 ml of apricot jam, a half a cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of baking soda or bicarb, 1.5 cups of self-raising flour, and a pinch of salt. For the sauce, you'll also need some ideal milk, butter, sugar, and vanilla essence, but we'll get to those in a little bit. So the same as last week's milk tart recipe, the Malva pudding, I also use a 27 by 27 centimeter Pyrex dish, and you can start by putting the oven on to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. So for the recipe, we need 2 eggs, and you can pop them in your mixer. And then with the whisk attachment, put it on a medium speed for about a minute. So beat the eggs until they're light and fluffy, and then add half a cup of sugar, 25 ml of butter, and 30 ml of apricot jam. And beat them on a high speed until they combine. So the next ingredients to go into the mix is a half a cup of milk and a teaspoon of baking soda or bicarb. So pop the bicarb into the milk and give it a bit of a stir, and then add it into the mixture and beat the ingredients until everything is combined. So the last ingredients to go in is 1.5 cups of self-raising flour and a pinch of salt. Beat the ingredients on a medium speed, but at this point don't overbeat the ingredients. You want the self-raising flour to do its job, and if you overbeat at this point, you may land up with a slightly dipped Malva pudding once it's baked. Alright, so the first part of this Malva pudding recipe is done. You will notice that perhaps some of the butter hasn't mixed in completely into the mixture. That is absolutely perfect, and it's how it should be. So what happens is during the baking process, that butter is going to create these lovely little pockets inside the Malva pudding. And then once the sauce is poured over, it is going to soak into those pockets and just create the most divine dessert. Okay, so before you pour the mixture into the dish, you'll need to grease your dish with some butter and then pour the mixture into the dish. Then spread your mixture evenly going all the way around. And then pop it in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. Now, I know 30 to 40 minutes seems like quite a big time variation, but what I essentially mean is that from 30 minutes onwards, start checking your Malva pudding. Once it's nice and golden brown on top, that is when it's ready to come out of the oven. It's now time to get on to the second part of this recipe, and probably the most important part, and that is the sauce that will be poured over the Malva pudding. So, for the sauce you will need 200 ml of water, 250 ml of ideal milk, 200 ml of butter, 250 ml of sugar, and 5 ml of vanilla essence. Once your Malva has been in the oven for about 25 minutes, that's when I would begin to make the sauce. It's really easy. Everything goes into a pot on top of the stove. So the water, the butter, the sugar, and the ideal milk. So hold off on adding the vanilla essence until the mixture comes to the boil in the stove. but what you can do is stir it so that the sugar doesn't stick and burn at the bottom of your pot. So my sauce is boiling on the stove and my Malva has been in the oven for just over 30 minutes and it's looking lovely and golden and definitely time for it to come out. It smells incredible. So now what I like to do to kind of help the sauce to soak in is just pop a couple of holes using a fork around the top of the Malva. Grab the sauce from the stove and then slowly pour it over the top of the Malva pudding. Give it a minute or two to let the sauce soak in and then serve it with some whipped cream or custard. Enjoy. In next week's episode, the perfect vanilla cake recipe dressed in 5 different ways, and a leopard slowly crawled into my garden. Clickbait or not, you'll have to watch next week's episode to find out.